Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1980s.
That house is not fit to live in. No one's been able to live in it. It doesn't want people.
This is episode 225, recorded January 25th, 2023.
Gruesome Magazine.
My name is Jeff Mohr, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1980 and 1989. Each episode, my co-hosts Bill Mulligan, Crystal Cleveland, Chad Hunt, and I will tackle another classic or not so classic film from this radical, gory, influential, and gruesome decade. On this podcast, we usually start by giving some basic details of the film we are covering, followed by each of our first impressions of the movie, and then we'll move into taglines, posters, pictures, and, whatever we think we want to talk about that relates to the movie, hopefully. Also, Decades of Horror is partnering with Play Now Media. Decades of Horror, the classic era, has been on the classic horror movie channel, the classic science fiction movie channel, and the Wicked Horror TV channel for a couple years now. And we are now going to put up Decades of Horror, the 70s, and Decades of Horror, the 80s.
Yay,
So
that's cool.
We'll give you more specifics on the details of that once it happens. But if you already subscribe to those, you might want to go check them out. I know he's got two new channels called Classic Horror, Free Classic Horror, and Free Horror Movies. And there'll be channels with commercials. So all of the podcasts will be available there.
Nice.
Cool.
Plus some others. So anyway, I'm pretty sure 70s and 80s will go on Wicked Horror TV as well. All right, so let's get into this. With me tonight is Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead girl, who's also on the Gruesome Magazine podcast. How you doing, Crystal?
I'm fabulous. It's great. Yeah, good. How are you? I'm good. Yay.
Yes,
I'm more interested in Bill's cat, I think, than that face, that pretty face.
Yeah, what a face.
Okay. Well, Chad Hunt could not join us tonight for some reason. I don't think, people are so unreasonable. He had to work. So I don't know why he couldn't get off because of this.
That's one of the bad things about being a dependable, good worker with a good work ethic is people learn and take advantage of you.
That's true.
Something's got to be done, and it might as well be done right. So
that's absolutely true.
Yep.
It's like that in organizations too.
Yep.
The same people get called on all the time. But we do have Bill Mulligan, writer, director, special effects guru, and co-host of Decades for the 1970s. And pretty much all around nice guy. And, cat
He's
lover.
got his moments. Cat lover for sure. Yeah.
How's Bill?
If you marry a cat lady, you better be a cat lover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
But I've always liked the cat, especially handsome boys like this one. Not a lot of fur, but good personality. I'm doing okay. We just started this week the new semester at school. So it's a brand new batch of younglings who want to learn physical science. They just can't wait, and I'm just the guy to do it. So the classes look good. They seem like a bunch of fine young people. I believe the children are the future. So
in Iowa, all the public school teachers are indoctrinating kids and have hidden agendas. Are you one of those?
If I told you about it, it wouldn't be hidden now.
Yeah. True.
Thanks for blowing my cover, Jeff.
That was a dig at the Iowa government, in case anybody didn't notice.
We got plenty of that here. And in fairness, there's a lot of idiot teachers out there, but not nearly as many as people would like to believe.
Right.
Unfortunately, because that would be an easy fix. Oh well.
So anyway, we are a spoiler podcast. We're going to spoil this, talk about the ending. So if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. But our topic today is The Changeling from 1980. Directed by Peter Medak, written by William Gray and Diana Maddox, from a story by Russell Hunter. Cast includes George C. Scott, Trish Vanderveer, Melvin Douglas, John Colicos, Helen Burns, and Eric Christmas. Production company is Chessman Park Productions, which is obviously a one-off because it's the Chessman House is the legend behind this. Filming locations, British Columbia, Washington, and New York City. Filmed December 4th, 1978 to February 25th, 1979, and released on the 26th of March, 1980. The budget in Canadian dollars was $7.6 million, or translated or transformed to US $6.6 million. The domestic box office, and this is US dollars, was listed as 12 million on Wikipedia and 12.8 million on Ultimate Movie Rankings. The synopsis: after the death of his wife and daughter in a car crash, a music professor staying at a long-vacant Seattle mansion is dragged into a decades-old mystery by an inexplicable presence in the mansion's attic.
That's it. Yeah.
And
All right.
there's our star holding the infamous red rubber ball. Cue the circle.
Yeah.
Did you ever, that song?
Red rubber
Crystal?
ball. Yeah.
No, I don't. but I'll pretend. Yeah.
I believe it was a one-off band too. The circle.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
I'll
So
send you a link. It's a cute little ditty.
Okay.
it is. Little bubblegum thing.
Yeah.
All right. So let me find my spot here. Yeah, this also had a lot of also known as. The working title was House on Chessman Park.
Ugh.
And
Okay.
I'll screw this up, I'm sure, but in Mexico it was El Intermediario del Diablo, the devil's middleman.
Yep.
Okay.
And
The Changeling works best. So really,
I like the change.
Yeah.
In Spain, Al final de la escalera, at the end of the stairs. Maybe
Okay.
the top of the stairs, or in French, l'enfant du diable, the devil's child. Changeling is the best. I like
Yeah.
the Changeling.
Yeah. I don't think the Devil's Child is accurate
No,
Right.
either.
I'm not sure the devil's middleman is either.
No.
I didn't
No.
see the devil, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the devil is dead already. The dad.
Well, let's get to one of our features here, which I will adapt it just a little bit.
Oh,
it
no.
will be taglines with Chad, as played by
Oh,
Bill
I love the
Mulligan.
artwork thing there. That looks cool.
Yeah. That's genuinely disturbing.
That looks cool.
He seems so
And
cool with the fact that he's got a can shoved into his head. Like,
Yeah. Well,
It looks
actually,
spookier, actually, as a
Chad did
piece
that.
of
I
art.
just stole that other picture off of Chad's Facebook page
Yeah.
from somebody doing some practice effects
he's
on
such
it.
a talented artist. Oh, I'm so
And,
jealous. Yeah.
finally I said, well, maybe he would, doesn't like that I stole that. Would you rather just put some of your own artwork up there? And so he produced this. I think it is a CG creation from the original, but it still looks pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of artists are upset about CG, but I'm convinced that what's going to happen is the artistic people are going to figure out how to use CG better than the rest of us who can. Yeah, we can.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, are you guys having problems with that? I forget what it's called now, but that AI that writes like term papers.
I've heard of it, but
don't
I've
have
heard
a-
it's just garbage. That's
I don't have a
what I've
problem.
heard.
It to me, it's obviously either AI or a very mediocre writer. It's not
Yeah.
at all impressive.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've heard too.
Well, it's the
So
beginning. So we'll
That's
see.
true. It might get better. It might,
Um,
give it 10 years and maybe it's Shakespeare. But you know what? I doubt it. But we'll see.
All right. Well, let's do the taglines here.
Tagline. Okay. All right, Giz. Let's take a look at these taglines. We've got 4 of them. All right. First one. An experience beyond total fear.
okay.
Yeah. Total Fear. That is really
This movie is
oversold.
not scary at all. So no.
Define total fear. I guess.
Yeah, totally. It was so. You went all the way back to not scary at all. Yeah. 2 people live in this house. One of them has been dead for 70 years.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's okay.
A little
That's
intriguing.
fair.
Creepy.
Okay, here's a quote. How did you die, Joseph? Did you die in this house? Why do you remain? ...
Okay. That's fine, I guess.
And last
I mean,
one,
that's basically the premise of the movie. So,
And that's
yeah.
the quote from the seance, right?
right. That's true. I guess if you say in a seance voice. Last one. Whatever you do, don't go in the attic.
Okay.
Capital letters there. So, yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
the invitation to.
Which, they could have called that
to
the
the
movie
attic.
Don't Go in the Attic, and it'll be one of those movies that just tells you what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you go in the attic, you're going to be terrified, probably beyond total fear, between the bouncing ball and a wheelchair.
Yeah.
This
Which
is
is
true.
weird.
Okay.
So weird.
All right. Well, let's get to first impressions. And this is my pick, so I'll go first.
Yep.
This is one of those movies that I always read about how it was one of the best ghost stories of blah 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 cinema history. Even I've heard it gone that far, but the first time I watched it, I was really not impressed. Now this time around, I was, and I don't know if it's just me watching with a different pair of glasses after doing these podcasts for a while, but I look at totally different things, and I was really impressed with the acting. I thought George C. Scott, Trish Vanderveer were great. I know they were married, but I thought anyway, you could see the chemistry between them. Also Melvin Douglas. I mean, we got Oscars going on here. I think Melvin Douglas won 2 and George C. Scott won. So the cinematography I thought was excellent. Also the set design. They made that whole, like, the house is a facade that they built. And once they go through the doors to the house, they're in a set that's just huge. And I think it's really cool myself. So anyway, and I kind of like it as we definitely have a supernatural aspect, but I also kind of like stuff. I know it's kind of a trope, but I kind of like stuff where they have to go digging, through newspapers and investigate and find stuff out, but they didn't waste too much time doing that. They would go off on their own and come back together and go, hey, this and that, So anyway, I like this a lot. I was much more impressed than the first time I watched it. Crystal, how about you?
Okay.
The Changeling.
So I did see this one as a kid. I don't remember much about it. I mean, not really. I think watching it this time, it's pretty much what I kind of remember. Okay, so this is interesting. It's a great film, but it's kind of boring to me, honestly. I mean, once you know what the twist, I guess, is, because it is a twist. I will say, the first time you figured out what's happened, I think that is phenomenal. I love the Changeling. I love the whole concept of it. It's really, really cool. And they do explain. And George C. Scott, God, I love George C. Scott. I mean, he's great in everything that he does. So the acting is phenomenal. Yes, I agree with Jeff that it is wonderfully shot and it's beautiful. But it's just, I think this is kind of one of those movies that for me, it's just a one-shot deal, because it's not very exciting. It was kind of boring to me. Even the seance is kind of boring. I just think it's so odd that he loses his family and moves into this massive house still. It's just weird in a lot of ways, but I can forgive that because I do think it's really cool what happens. I mean, if you haven't seen it, it's from the 80s. You should watch it because we're going to spoil it. But spoiler. I mean, I just think that it's really traumatizing too, the way that they show the son's death. Like it's pretty hardcore there, the way that's shot and done. And I get why it happened. I can't blame the man who replaced the son, though. He needed a better life, and like, he's not the one that actually hurt the child. I feel like some of that anger is a little misplaced. But I mean, I say place anger on the person that actually did the thing, and at what point would it have been beneficial to the child remaining, or to the one that actually was there taking his place, to actually tell that information? What's done, I mean, come on, let's be real. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so I enjoyed it, but it's a one-shotter for me. One time, and then, I never really needed to see it again. But it's good. It's good.
But you were glad you watched it this time, right?
Sure. I actually almost fell asleep several times. Like, I was like, okay.
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but it's just because I already knew what the twist was. And I mean, actually, this time I just noticed more flaws. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't think much about this man losing his family, then moving into this big house, which makes literally no sense in the whole world. Like, it's only going to feel more lonely where you're at. I mean, so there's a lot of things that I actually noticed more flaws. And this is what tends to happen with watching 80s movies as a child and or any movie really, watching movies as a child and watching movies as an adult. You tend to notice the flaws more when you're, older, and you can really see like, that's silly, but it's still a great movie. It's classic.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Mulligan, how about you?
Yeah, so I agree with both of you. I saw this when it came out. I was in college, and I would go to see as many movies as I could, and I went to see this. And I pretty much felt about it the way Crystal did. Here's the thing, and this is my own personal bias. I do not find ghost stories generally very scary. I've never understood when people say, oh, what is it that scares you? And like, oh, ghosts. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
It's like the whole premise of a ghost is after you die, you still get to hang around. It's like, that seems kind of like a good thing. Yeah, some of them are a little spooky looking. And I've never gotten that. I was talking to someone about this. Even as a kid, Casper the Friendly Ghost just puzzled the hell out of me, because he's about as harmless looking as you can imagine. But when people see him, they freak out. And like their skeleton jumps out of their body and runs away, and then their skin goes flopping after it, which is like 11,000 times more horrifying than Casper could ever hope to be. But so all my life, I've been told ghosts are scary, but I don't see why. And this one isn't very scary. I remember being a little let down at the time. Now, watching it this time, I see where Jeff is coming from, because I enjoyed it quite a bit more. I still think the first half is pretty slow. There's a lot of buildup. And I had forgotten literally everything about this movie, except that there was a bouncy ball and and there was a wheelchair. And that's literally all I remembered. And George C. Scott was in it. But the plot completely, I'd forgotten. Did not leave much of an impression. And this time, I really enjoyed the part about finding out who this child was and why he was so angry. And I agree with you, Crystal. I felt bad for Melvin Douglas. He was not part of this. And the scene where George C. Scott is confronting him, and Douglas is just so ridiculous. Good. These are two great actors in the scene, and he's like the pain in his face when he's talking about, my father was a good man.
Yeah, and that's what's so sad, because that's all he knew. Oh, sorry. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, and you can see that. And okay, we know that he wasn't, but it's still not Melvin Douglas's fault. And at the end, I don't feel really that justice was done. I didn't feel like there was any warm sense here. But okay, hey, ghosts are what they are. But again, it's not scary. The part with the bouncing ball was done way better by Mario Bava in Kill Baby Kill. And I don't know what a wheelchair is supposed to do to you. Just, maybe it might scoop you up and throw you down the stairs. I don't know. But Trish is screaming like crazy. But this is a classy film. It's really well made. The director is an interesting director. We'll talk a little bit more about him later. and knows his chops, knows how to work with difficult actors. So George C. Scott is reputed to have been one, though I guess he behaved himself on the set here, maybe because his wife was there. This is what Hollywood considered horror. You know, if they're going to make a horror movie, it's going to be one with good actors and just all around a little, you know, understated. And it has its place. So if you're a person who
hasn't changed much, has it?
no, if you're someone who finds ghost stories scary, if you think like the scariest movie ever made was the original The Haunting, then you're going to love this one. It's not gory. It doesn't have graphic sex scenes. I mean, the whole family can watch this. It has some disturbing elements, but yeah, it was good. I'm glad. I actually was not looking forward to watching it, and I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed it more the second time around than I did the first. So,
Oh, that's good.
But I think if I'd seen it as a child, if I was, you know, like Crystal and I saw it as a kid, I would have thought, this, you know, where's the zombies? Where's the, you know, where's the humanoids from the deep here? Come on, this is my grandma's idea for horror. But now, of course, I'm the age of my grandma, so.
Yeah. Well, you said a couple things that from stuff that I read really fits in. Number one, that Peter, the director and the producer, this was like a passion project for him. And it was. The Haunting was like the scariest movie he'd ever seen. And that's what they were going for, was that kind of thing. And they both said that they had no problem with George C. Scott, except time that he played a game of chess against himself in his trailer. And at some point they had to move the trailer, and somebody forgot to go in and secure the chess set. And so the game was ruined, and he threw a fit, apparently, you know. It's like, but other than that, he said it was all pretty, you know, he was wanting to know, you know, he was wanting to be directed and was into the whole thing. So I thought that was interesting. But you nailed that on The Haunting, because that's literally what they were going for. And in hindsight, I think this is not a horror movie for horror fans.
Yeah.
This is a horror movie or a ghost story for fans of good movies. And, you know, it's almost more of a mystery than anything else.
Yeah.
With the ghosts thrown in to trigger things.
That's good.
All right. Well, we have some posters.
See, I don't remember any of that, any of the posters or anything like that.
Well, I mean, yeah. So what's a wheelchair? But I kind of like that poster.
Okay, but I have a question, because here's a big fault of the movie. This kid is in a wheelchair, and yet when his father's killing him, he's kicking his legs like crazy. And come on.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he was more waving his arms and body around, and the father was pushing down on the legs. But anyway.
Well, if you're ever going to get your legs working again, that would be the time to do it.
A weird way to drown him.
I do like this poster, because, you know, it's like, you know, you got to look at it. It's like, oh, wait a minute. The shadow actually has the child in the chair, but he's not really there.
Yeah.
I
like the font
painted. Yeah. I like seeing posters that are actually artwork, because we don't see that much anymore.
Okay, so that's the one you see the most, and that's actually pretty close to the. Severin has a Blu-ray that has like that version of the poster on the cover, only it's metallicized. You know. All right, what else do we have here?
Here's, I think.
Oh boy,
I don't know.
That's horrible.
Yeah, this is just not the movie at all.
And who's that girl?
I think that's the little girl that was being like spooked.
Oh, who the wells under her bedroom?
Right. One would think she's the main focus of this movie from the poster, but one would be wrong.
Oof.
Yeah.
And then
before Photoshop. And this looks like something from an Italian, you know, giallo film. It's even yellow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
kind of. The flames are very more comic book like than real. Alrighty.
Trish played a character who was definitely scared of ghosts. She's just screaming away, but I'm like, come on.
Well,
girls.
I think so. Okay, you guys are talking like this. I'm like, so was I scared? No, but in the right atmosphere, I had chills. When
I think in the right atmosphere.
Not when when the ball comes down the stairs, but not because the ball was coming down the stairs, but because he just threw it into the river.
Yeah,
and he goes home and the ball comes bouncing down the stairs, and then the the vision of the father drowning the kid, and when the wheelchair chases her, but it was still pretty wild. And I thought, man, Trish Vanderveer sold it big time.
Oh yeah, she's good.
She was really
she's
good.
Kind of underrated because every time I think of her, I tend to think of her in movies with George C. Scott, and he's such a dominating presence. But she was not one of these, sometimes there are actors who always make sure their wife gets cast in the movie too, and you're just thinking, okay, well, she married the right person. I don't think that's the case with her. She's a good actress. And if anything, I think maybe she got held back a little because she ended up being in a lot of George C. Scott's passion projects like The Savage is Loose and everything that may not have done her any favors. But I guess their marriage worked. Yeah. I mean, I hear he was a difficult guy to be around. He was a hard drinker. There's stuff that's come out. Of course, a lot of these people are gone now, so they're not around to defend themselves, and anyone can say anything they want. But, Scott was a difficult guy. But I got to say, Peter Medak, this guy worked with Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
He worked with Peter Sellers. He worked with George C. Scott. That's like the trifecta of infamously difficult prima donnas. If he'd managed to get Reed and Klaus Kinski, he would have to be on Mount Rushmore as a saint among directors, and managed to get some good performances out of most of them.
Well, sometimes it's not. Sometimes a person can be known as being difficult, but they're not always difficult with certain people.
Right.
I mean, he may just be really good at working with and knowing how to handle difficult people. So they actually weren't difficult when they worked with him. Like I have worked with some really difficult people, and I don't really consider them difficult because I'm like, no, it's okay. Like I'm a little bit more chill. I can handle a lot.
That used to happen to me at work all the time. I'd get paired with somebody that people would say, "Oh, watch out for."
Yeah, and then I'm like, what?
I'd have no problem with it,
I've been on movie sets where I was, let's just call the person, let's say, Fred, and I became the Fred with her because they would just like palm Fred off with me because I knew how to handle Fred. I didn't know how to handle Fred. I just said, "How are things going?" And then I shut up and let him talk for the next hour.
And see, sometimes, and that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's simpler than what people think. You know, like it's just
So he's still around at. I see. What would he be?
Yeah, he's still alive.
My brain's not adding. 70, 85 years old, I think.
Yeah, and it has been kind of a little bit rediscovered, and kind of because he made, again, when we get to the shots with him, I've got some stuff. He directed one of my favorite insano 80s films, The Ruling Class, which it was either 70s or 80s. I can't actually remember.
I don't think I've never seen that.
I didn't see one of him.
Oh no. Well, that was stupid on my part.
Let me double check here.
I may have screwed it up.
No,
that's all right.
That sounds interesting, though.
He made a movie called The Ruling Class, which was that was the one with Peter O'Toole, and it is the darkest of dark comedies, where Peter O'Toole is a lunatic who's the heir to a British lordship and believes he's Jesus Christ, and they're trying to get him committed. Yeah. They're trying to get him committed so they can take over his stuff and everything. And it's all funny stuff about the British class structure. And then at a certain point in the movie, it flips a switch and gets so damn dark that I'm like, wow, this is a strange movie. Who was this made for? And I guess it was made for me because I enjoyed it.
I haven't seen
yeah.
it, but I was reading about it from this movie, doing research, and I definitely want to check it out.
It's worth checking out, but keep in mind, this is the kind of movie they do not make anymore. And it's amazing
I'm
they
sure.
made it at all. Then he tried to make a movie with Peter Sellers, and apparently it was a classic disaster where Sellers was just super difficult. I don't know if the movie may or may not have actually gotten finished, and if it did, it may or may not have gotten released, and it kind of killed his career to a large
Oh,
extent.
that stinks.
So
It's his credits are really varied. But even more recently, he directed a couple episodes of Hannibal.
Yeah,
an episode of Breaking Bad.
Those are some pretty serious feathers in a cap.
What else? Masters of Horror. He did an episode.
He's kind of been rediscovered, because I think this film has sort of been rediscovered.
Yes.
I don't remember anyone talking about it for the longest time, and then I see it brought up and mentioned quite a bit lately. So that's good.
Yeah,
I'm glad he lived
2.
long enough to see. Yeah,
Species 2. Tales from the Crypt. So anyway,
I get the feeling he was one of those guys where if whoever the original director of Species 2 was, when he dropped out, they're like, oh my God, we got a shooting date. I don't know if this is what happened, but I'm going to bet that it is. And they're flailing around looking for someone who is competent and, is not turning down so many offers that he can turn down this one.
Zorro the Gay Blade.
Zorro the Gay Blade.
So I think you might be right there, because he was not the original director for this movie. I forget the name, but whoever was originally left.
Was it Richardson?
Left for differences of vision, I guess.
Tony Richardson.
Okay.
Tony Richardson was one of the original directors, but creative differences. And
that's it. That's the word I was looking for.
That can mean an awful lot.
All right. Well, we just talked a whole bunch about Peter Medak. So we have George C. Scott. Now, these are other movies, right?
Yeah. He's not someone who's known for genre stuff, but Exorcist 3.
Oh, yeah.
Has one of the greatest scares of all time in it.
It's one of the greatest. Come on, freaking Dora Finnet Brad is amazing in Exorcist 3.
He did a Beauty and the Beast, and I'll give credit. It's one of the few Beauty and the Beast where the Beast is actually beastly. They keep making these Beauty and the Beast adaptations where the Beast is way better looking than the handsome prince he turns into at the end. When George C. Scott did it, he looked like a pig. So, okay, committing to the role.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Firestarter.
Yeah,
I loved him in Firestarter. My favorite. He played that good friend. Like, it's so good.
See, I thought he was miscast in that, because I remember
liking
that character in the book.
That's what I thought too.
But he is likable. He is likable. Yeah, I mean, I was literally a kid when I watched that, and I would have been pulled in by him.
I guess part of it is I really liked the book, and I really hated the movie. I probably wasn't going to like.
This was not. He was not the way I pictured Rainbird.
Yeah,
I pictured him as a more obviously indigenous.
That's sure.
That now, sure,
Yeah, well, and that's hence the new one. Who I love the new one as well. So yeah, I did. I love Firestarter. It's one of my favorite stories. But
I usually don't have any. I usually don't have as big a problem with remakes as a lot of people. I was okay with Pet Sematary. I was okay with Firestarter. Anyway,
I haven't seen the new one.
There, I've said it.
Well, I preferred the original, but the remake I liked. I actually liked. I mean, I was like, oh, what? Why does everyone hate on this? Like, I didn't really see what there was to hate on it.
Because I didn't think the first one was that good, and the special effects weren't that great, so I could see.
You might prefer it then.
I might prefer the new one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Day of the Dolphin. I haven't seen Day of the Dolphin since a long.
I've never seen that, but look at those shorts.
I remember liking it. I remember liking it, but I also remember it was a box office mega bomb. So
Oh,
maybe I just like dolphins. I've got to see it. I just remember it being really kind of cool, and it's got a good cast, interesting writers. So I don't know.
I did not see that one.
That's a terrible cover for it, by the way. It makes it look like
Yeah.
Action Man, just
yeah.
C Lab 2020.
But we do have some. I guess these would be from this movie.
Yeah.
So, like, he did not age well. Okay, because I think he's only like 52 or something in this movie. And I'm sorry,
A lot older.
but he looks tore up. Come on, let's be real. He looks way older than any 52-year-old I know.
Yeah, you're
Like,
right. Right.
yeah, I'm like, oh.
But that could be, the fact that he's grieving and everything, that can take it out of you. I mean, he's one of those actors because he's such a big guy. And or at least you always get the impression that he's big and strong, kind of a John Wayne type in terms of his build. I don't know if that's true or not. But as he gets older, you're starting to fall apart. And there's a certain terrible dignity in that when you see older actors who I think John Wayne did some of his best stuff as he was getting older, as the cancer was starting to get to him, playing characters like that. You're just like, wow, this is like looking at, classical Greek architecture as it's falling apart. The ruins are still kind of really interesting, maybe better than they were when they were fresh and new. So I liked him in this. And of course, he's
I
just
love
I see
him
what
in
you're
this.
saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Crystal.
He did not age
sure
well.
doesn't look like he's 52. So
No.
so I'm 10 years older than him in this movie. Oh, I look hella better than that.
Way. That's what I'm saying. Like he did not age well. Like he had a hard life. Like that's not even makeup. No, poor guy. He's just rough.
Well, he's kind of you talked about him being difficult, but I always thought of him as even the characters he plays, he's kind of a force of nature.
yeah.
He has such a strong personality that it's hard to see. And even then with Trish Vanderveer being able to play right alongside him and equal, I thought she did it.
Oh, I think she did a great job. There is I don't think there's a single problem with any of the acting in here for me. I think everyone is phenomenal.
Yeah. So yeah, and he has a nice scene where he breaks down, is crying, and then she just totally goes nuts in the one scene too. All right. Well, we need to look at Melvin Douglas, who's definitely got some horror props, some roots.
Yeah, I was amazed when I looked this up. Melvin Douglas is not someone you think of as being a horror actor, but he was actually in two of the earliest possible horror films, The Vampire Bat and The Old Dark House. I wouldn't recognize him because he was probably 20 years old.
Oh, he's great in The Old Dark House. I haven't seen
he's
The Vampire
fantastic.
Bat for so long. I can't remember, but we did that on Classic Era and
Vampire Bat or Old Dark Bat?
Or no, Old Dark House. And
that's a great movie. Great movie.
And then comes along and does The Changeling, followed up by Ghost Story.
Ghost Story, which Ghost Story is actually one I would like to get back to. It's
I want to do that one so bad, but it's never streaming for free. It's always
that one,
paid.
even though it's a ghost story, ergo the title, it has some really cool makeup effects from
It does.
Dick Smith, I think it was. Either Dick Smith or John Chambers. It was, there's some really creepy things that they should have shown more of, and a hell of a cast. I mean, boy, they found the oldest great actors they could and stuck them in that movie.
See, that's one where that was another thing where I read the book and was really excited about the movie. And by then I had learned, don't expect the movie to be the same as the book. So I was open to the changes they made. And Alice Krieg is awesome. That's the first time I remember seeing her.
She's a presence for sure.
But he's really good in this too. And I don't know how to explain it. You guys were defending him. It's not his fault. It's not his fault that his dad picked him to be the replacement.
Right.
And once, assuming he knew he wasn't the real child,
Mm-hmm.
What's
you
he
think
supposed
he
to
knew?
do?
Yeah, he did know, but that's irrelevant. He
Okay.
came from nothing and was adopted by this man who took incredible care of him and who gave him a beautiful life. Like he brought him from overseas and gave him a beautiful life. What is the point of betraying him and letting this come out? It just doesn't make any sense at that point. I totally get his motivation. I don't think it makes him a bad person. I think he was trying to protect his father. I don't think that he agreed with what his father did. I think in maybe some way he was probably grateful because he was able to assume this life, and I think he knows that he wouldn't have been able to had this not happened. But at a point, sometimes it's just better just to let shit lie. You know, it only hurts everyone. Yeah, it only
I'm
hurts
pretty
everyone
sure-
else. You
I
know?
think he knew. I think the story he had was that the son died, and so they adopted him so that they would have an heir, and that's all there is to it. I'm sure his dad never sat him down and said, "Let me explain exactly
I killed
how
him.
this works."
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Why would that
Yep.
ever come up? And so hearing this story and everything, he's outraged at the memory of his father being desecrated, but then he's beginning to realize that it might be true. But what is he supposed to do? What is served exactly by this?
Mhm.
But I understand the ghost point of view. Ghosts don't have to be reasonable.
Right.
This
Yeah.
ghost suffered a trauma that is keeping it trapped in this place. It probably can't go to whatever beyond there might be. So ghost justice may not be human justice.
Right. And yeah, and as we were saying that, I don't think he necessarily knew that his dad killed the son.
No.
I think he just realized the son had passed away and he was taking his place, of course. Of course he knew that because he was of age at that point. But he also knew he had to keep up with the ruse because of the inheritance and all of that. There's,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't feel like it was his.
But
It's not like he killed the boy.
Melvin Douglas was really good at portraying the pain and keeping it.
Yeah.
And this, it probably would have been more satisfying to the audience if his character was evil, like he was the one who killed it or something. But because that's not the premise of the film, that's something I felt like I was supposed to think, that this guy was a terrible person who I hope suffers and dies. And I never felt that.
Yep.
You know?
Me too.
Well, yeah, I see the drive to actually find the body and know what's going on with so that people know what the father did, and that you can't help but have that spill out on the senator, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly so it makes sense to me. Well, I thought he was just trying to cover the fact that he replaced the son. That's all. Like just that it happened, that he was not actually the son. That's why I felt like like him, Melvin, the senator. Like he was trying to just not. I feel like he was trying to cover up the fact that he took the kid's place. That would change everything.
Yeah.
That would change the whole, because then the inheritance wasn't legal. I mean, there's so many ramifications to it.
Well,
the
I don't
whole
know.
reason.
We don't know all that stuff because
as a senator,
it wasn't legal for him to do that. For one, you can't assume someone's identity, especially if you knew.
You can
and he
leave
was
your
of
inheritance
age.
to whoever you want for whatever reason. So I don't know if anyone would come and snatch it away from.
But
him.
it was only the whole reason the dad killed him. Did you know? Was because of the inheritance. Period. He killed his sixth son because he knew he was going to die and he wasn't going to get the money. So he killed him so that he could bring this healthy child over and keep the money, which totally is horrible. But I get it. And with this guy, that's not his fault. But yet he would ruin his. Just the way,
right.
You know, it's a tough one. I get it. It's not necessarily the right thing to do, but I would be in the same position. I would probably protect my family and protect the life that I had built. I mean, we don't know if he had a family or what. We know nothing
You were
about
saying
his
that-
personal
yeah.
life.
Well, we know. I mean, he's a senator. He's near the end of his life. There's not much question of that.
Right.
And to suddenly see everything that you thought you were, your reputation, the work you've done, will now be replaced with this horrible past.
Yeah.
That'll be your story.
Yep.
Yeah, I can
And
understand.
you would assume, let's be real, like most senators are married, most of them have kids. So you've got to make the assumption that he's not just protecting himself, he's protecting his family as well. I mean, what a scandal. And not just a scandal. That's horrible.
Yeah.
That's so bad. Because he knew he was of age. The kid he drowned wasn't that young. This kid knew he wasn't him.
Yeah.
So he did live this lie, for all these years. Oh, so bad. So bad. That's so bad. I mean, not saying that I wouldn't have done it, because I probably would have, but it's really bad.
And I thought the George C. Scott character, he did pull back. I mean, at first I'm like, dude, why would you think this guy's going to react well to this story? But when the Melvin Douglas character begins just being outraged and almost at the verge of tears, you see Scott's pulling back, like, oh yeah, now I think about it, this really is horrible.
He started to get it, yeah. Like what? Because I don't think George's character really I don't think he understood what happened at first. I don't think he really got it until it kind of like started coming. Until the senator probably sending his dude there, I think actually prompted a lot of the explanation.
So it's kind of curious. What was the purpose, other than just get the movie going? So he loses his family in this freak accident. Did that brush with death and the grief and everything? Did that just make him more open to the spirits contacting him?
Well, that's what I took.
Yeah, I kind of took it that way. Or I mean, they could have played it as he was more open to the idea of life after death because he's lost the people he loves. The fact that there might be something beyond this, that he might see them.
Wasn't it a year after the accident, or did I dream that?
I can't remember if they said 1 year later or not. It was I think it wasn't immediate.
It wasn't immediate, yeah.
Right. And then they came up with this house just because it was like his position was funded by the Historical Society, and they own this house so he could.
I guess,
there.
But there's no way.
Crystal's right. You'd get no work done because you'd spend your entire time dusting.
And the reality is, this man who did lose his family, staying in a big house like that is.
Right.
I feel like it would be, or I mean, anybody. It would be.
They'd find him hanging
so depressing. Yes, exactly. That would be, because it's just empty and desolate, and the bigger the place is, the more empty it feels. It's sad. Yeah.
So there is a interesting character that shows up shortly. Detective DeWitt, played by, is it John Colicos or Colicos? Colicos.
He's an interesting actor. He's been in some cool stuff.
Yeah, he is.
He was a Klingon. He was one of the best Klingons. And he was on Battlestar Galactica as the bad guy.
I love Battlestar Galactica.
The original.
The original Battlestar.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that one. I don't. Fair enough.
Lord Green. Well, he was the bad guy there, turncoat. And
he's always a bad guy then, typically, because
look at that face. That's not like a leading man that you want to see get the girl. That he looks like the guy who's either ordering hitmen or he's the hitman.
He looks cool as a Klingon.
Yeah, he was a great Klingon.
Although it makes me laugh because it makes me think of the Star Trek where they're like, "Oh, we don't talk about the way the Klingons look when they go back."
I think this is him playing the same character. He was in the original series playing that character.
Yeah.
They brought him back, except they gave him the updated weird Klingons.
I thought this made it a little easier to dislike the senator, because as soon as he finds out John Russell is digging around, he sends the cop to threaten him. And then they also, like, big money donors to the Historical Society kick his wife, what was her character's name? Was it Joanna? Brain dead.
I can't remember any of the names. So,
Well, George C. Scott was John Russell. Oh, Trish Vanderveer was Claire Norman. I'm sorry. So anyway, Joanna Russell, that was his wife's name. Jean Marsh, who's too bad she only had such a small part because she's a good actress as well. And Barry Morse. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I wonder if he got cut.
I think I had a thing of Barry Morse. Did I not have a graphic for him?
Nope.
I don't know what I was thinking then, because he was in the first season of Space 1999. I always liked him. Yeah.
Wasn't he Inspector Girardi on The Fugitive?
Yes, he was the guy chasing after the fugitive.
So yeah, he has like the smallest of bit parts here for a guy with that name, and I saw his name on posters too. So, anyway, well, we also have
the wheelchair.
And look, we joke about it, but I gotta say, the angles, the choices for photographing this thing definitely give it a sense of power and scariness, that the way it dominates the frame here. And so they did a good job. This is a well-crafted film by people who know what they're doing. So always appreciated to see a little bit more effort put into something. Great lighting. I mean, God, these are great shots. I love these shots here.
Mm-hmm. So and I have to admit that the wheelchair is kind of a cool touch, because it is just one of those old-timey wicker ones, which is weird, because it's just weird. It's like a rocking chair with wheels.
Bill, I was just thinking about, we were talking on Dream Warriors about filming stuff in reverse. And so I had that in my head when they had this scene where George C. Scott's in the well digging through the dirt looking for that metal.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it pulls itself up out, and I'm going, oh, I know how
would they do that? Yeah.
It looked kind of weird. I love that whole scene in that house, though, because the mother just seemed really believable to me. It's like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to think about this. And then the little girl has a night terror again that night, and the next shot is chainsaw cutting through the floor. Oh, anyway, and at the DeWitt, when that was just weird. Like now, if they filmed that now, there'd be like some huge crazy crash scene, but we don't see anything. We just see the car upside down in the middle of the road with his bloody head hanging down.
Yeah, that is kind of strange that we.
I don't think we needed to see the accident, though. I mean,
no, probably not.
It doesn't need to be that dramatic. Honestly, when they show that stuff in movies, it's so over the top. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, I feel like it's such a waste of money, because guess what? You both, like everyone loves this movie, and I guarantee you all the money that they saved on not doing that paid off.
Yeah.
Because it's irrelevant. Like,
right.
I mean, it's not, it doesn't really further the story. Really, like Bill said, it is kind of weird he lost his family, but that's all we needed to know. We lost him. Yep.
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, this won the Canadian version of Academy Awards, which had just changed names to the Genie Award for Best Picture, was nominated for 10 overall and won 8 for Canadian films that year. I have no idea how many films were made in Canada.
Among Canadian horror films, this would be the cream of the crop, because I love Canada and I love Canadians. Please don't send us letters. My daughter lives in Canada, and I love visiting because they are the nicest people. And this is where you follow with the big butt. Canadian horror movies are interesting. they've got a vibe. I can almost always tell when I'm watching a Canadian horror movie. With just a few minutes, it's like this was shot in Canada.
Almost everything is shot in Canada though now.
There's a lot of stuff.
Like,
I mean,
everything's shot in Canada.
Well,
like,
there's shot in Canada,
everything.
and there's a Canadian horror movie.
Horror
I'm talking
film.
about they were. This was conceived and made by
Yeah.
actual Canadians, not a bunch of Americans trying to use some
Yeah.
cheap dollars to save a buck.
Yeah, it must be much cheaper over there.
So the whole thing behind this, apparently, and I watched a little video about it, but there's a pretty long, involved story about the actual ghost story that this is based on that I am not going to go into here. Maybe Bill has a short version. I don't know, but it was called the Cheeseman House, Chees, in Denver, across from Cheeseman Park in Denver, Colorado. And the house has been demolished since then. But
what a mistake!
Man, the story starts in like the 1840s or something, and includes like this park. There was a cemetery there, so they were going to move the cemetery, and somebody gave the lowest bid on moving the bodies, and so they literally would take, according to this guy, they had like 3-foot coffins, and they would put like a skull in this coffin. Up there's one body, and then an arm and a leg in this other coffin. There's another body, and never really moved most of them. And so at somewhere along the lines in the 60s, this writer named Russell lived in this house, and there was all kinds of long, detailed happenings going on, a lot of which are in this movie. So, whether it's an Amityville horror type thing or what, there is a basis to it, and they did a lot of research.
Isn't that also kind of the premise of Poltergeist?
Right? Well, yes.
We're supposed to move it, but
yeah. Supposed that was I think that took place in Colorado too. So all right. I don't know. We got any other stuff to talk about here?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a film that I think its reputation is growing, but it didn't. It kind of came and went. It didn't lose a lot of money. It didn't make a lot of money. It's just sort of a little oddity that got dropped out there, and does kind of seem maybe a little old fashioned for the 1980s. By this time, people were looking for more graphic.
Well, it was really, since it was shot in the late 70s, I guess that makes kind of,
Well, I think, there's it gets a lot of press because people like Martin Scorsese have called it one of the scariest ghost movies or one of the best ghost movies or something. And there are other well-known people that have labeled it that. So maybe I let that tint my view, but I enjoyed the hell out of it this time. And yeah, it's not particularly scary, but I think it's a really good movie. Like Chris will put it well.
Like, I think it's clearly, that's why I would never trust Martin Scorsese or on a horror film, because they're not he's not a horror lover.
Right.
But this is a quality film with horror elements, and that makes sense as to why he'd like it. Because it is, look at it.
If Martin Scorsese made a horror
way better
movie, I imagine it would look a lot like The Changeling.
Yeah, the quality of this film making is high, clearly. Like, let's be real. We've seen a lot of bad horror.
What am I thinking of? Did he do Shutter Island?
Yeah, and that's
that kind of makes sense.
Movie that we'll see from Scorsese.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm like, yep.
A really good movie. But anyway. All right. Well, hey, this is available out there right now. I think it's on Peacock right now and Tubi. Everything's on Tubi, it seems like.
I think I saw it on Peacock, yeah.
And a couple of the other free sites with that. So you could check it out. Or there's a really nice Blu-ray from Severn. We do have some feedback.
Yay.
Yes, we do. And this first one is kind of interesting. This was actually
Uh-oh.
a comment to 70s episode,
Oh,
but it was because he mixed it up with an 80s movie.
Oh, well, there you go.
So I don't know who wants to read this from Eric Baker.
I'll read it. Let's see. Okay, getting old moment. I already listened to this review, but just yesterday I was thinking, hey, wasn't the Grue-Crew talking about doing a possession movie? I forgot if it was 70s or 80s. I heard it on. So I was on Shudder today and I saw Possession 1981 with Sam Neill and Isabelle Adjani. Oh, hey, this could be it. So I watched it. Wow. That was an interesting 2 hours. Weird but good movie, LOL. You may want to take a look at it.
that's exactly how I would describe it.
So Eric,
Ah.
I can never
Yeah.
tell when you're joking, Eric, but we did do this one in episode 190. So Possession, and he had responded. This was a comment on
The
70s
Possessed. I
episode.
see it. Yeah, okay.
180, The Possessed, which was a TV movie.
And not as good as...
Not as good as Possession, no.
Mm-mm. No, but we did do it, and it's up. It's up somewhere for sure.
Yeah. Oh, it's on.
Yeah.
It's on video. It was after we.
And
I
apparently,
think it was
and
after we
hasn't
shipped
there
the
just
video.
been like a new, really top-notch 4K
Yes.
Blu-ray?
It's on
And
Shudder.
and that's why we did it.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We did it because we got that link to
4K.
There was a theater that was showing the new 4K remasters that you could also get online. So we, I think Doc hooked us up, and we got access to that screener right before it went, out to the public. And I think this was like maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. It was in
Yeah.
the fall last
So
year.
you get to see all the body fluids and high.
Oh, you see stuff you never could have seen before. I've told people I have the Mondo digital Blu-ray, and the creature is dark compared to this. This is
Yeah.
You get to see all the tentacles, all the things.
Yikes.
Anyway, thanks, Eric. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. Mm-hmm.
And then we have a couple for Dragon Slayer, Crystal,
Okay. Mikey
First one.
Z.
Mikey Z.
Not a big fan of this film. Oh, that makes me sad a little bit. It seems uneven to me. Peter McNichol is miscast as the apprentice. I think Bill brought that up too. Needed a more smarmy characterization. Okay. Ralph Richardson shines as always. The two female leads are also great. Great practical and go motion effects. Happy 2023, Grue-Crew. Grue-Crew. Looking forward to some more rockin' 80s podcasts. Happy New Year to you too. God, I can't believe we're already like 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks into the new year. It's going fast.
January 25th.
Woof.
Crikey.
Yeah. Thank you, Mikey.
Yeah, thanks, Mikey. And then we have one from Andy L, who happens to kind of be a friend of mine. We interchange stuff on by email, so I'm going to read this. On Dragon Slayer, glad you covered Dragon Slayer, even though I never really think of it as horror, but rather fantasy. I remember seeing it when it opened and have had the DVD for many years. Definitely one of the best realized dragons prior to CGI. And I still much prefer the non-CGI as being so much more visceral.
Totally.
I think we're all in the same camp there. The movie did have controversy when it came out as being a more adult film from Disney, as it was their first foray into this market. The violence and mild nudity were considered to be a major change at the time for the House of Mickey Mouse. I never realized that it didn't do that well. I've always really liked it and recommend to a lot of friends over the years. Do tell Bill that Reign of Fire from 2002 is
I
another
did
good
like Reign of
dragon
Fire.
movie, well worth watching.
I've seen it. It's great.
I agree.
Yeah. I think it's with Christian Bale, isn't it?
Yeah, I
I feel
think
like
so.
it is.
It's got some good actors in it. Great dragons.
Yeah.
He says, I was going to write about Scanners, another favorite of mine, and was trying to find on YouTube, without luck, an interview that I believe was on the Tomorrow Show with Cronenberg, Coscarelli, and I think Joe Dante, or John Landis, one of the two, discussing the explicit nature of gore in modern horror films and why they felt it was vital to their films. I remember
Oh.
seeing it when it aired in the early 80s and found it very insightful and interesting.
I'd like to find that too.
Oh,
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, we'll have to go for a look. I need to ask, I forget his name now, but if you're listening to this, the guy who found me the logs coming out of the trunk, see if you can find it.
That's the Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder. He would have some good guests on.
Yeah. Oh, he did. He had some great Harlan Ellison.
Oh yeah, he and Harlan really got along well, which is always fun.
Andy ends with, as always, thank you all for the continuing stream of excellent content. Live long and prosper.
Thank
You too, Andy.
You too. Oh, wait. Yeah. See, there we go. Mm-hmm.
And now the last one is on episode 220, Akira from Damien Aceteo, and he kind of does a New Year's thing every year. So I should have let one of you guys read that other one. Who wants to do this one?
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay.
Good for you. Yeah.
Happy New Year, Grue-Crew. I was delighted to see you guys review what I believe is the pinnacle of modern anime. Although some people claim this is just the start of the current trend, I believe it's impossible to surpass Akira. The movement, the story, the emotions throughout this film give you just a glimpse into the full story in the manga. Even though at the time the film was made, the manga story wasn't even complete. The colors just in the Neo Tokyo scene seem to take the Watchmen color palette and magnify them times 100. I can still watch the movie every year and pick out new things that I missed before. True. This is a must-have, not just for anime fans, but movie fans in general. Before I finish this email, one anime recommendation for the crew that might pique your interest in the sci-fi action horror genre is, Bao. He even pronounced it for me. Bo. Well, Bo, it could be Bo or Bao. I don't know. B-O-W. But I think you're right. Bo, listed as Bo the Killer, 1989 on IMDb. Released a year after Akira. Great action story and some bloody scenes that rival even Japanese anime at that period of the late 80s. I'll check it out.
Yep.
Well, as always, continued success and a prosperous new year for everyone. To you as well, sir.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, and I tried to find that and wasn't able. I found a listing finally as something that being like 50 minutes long. So I don't know if it's the right one or not, but I didn't find it available anywhere. Although I did not search YouTube or Daily Motion, those places that sometimes stockpile stuff. So appreciate it, Damien, and Happy New Year to you too. All right. I guess that's it for this episode. But every 2 weeks, we do this all over again.
Yes, we do.
With another film released between 1980 and 1989. Next up is one chosen by Bill. What
did you choose?
Okay, well, this is one that kind of surprisingly I have not seen.
Oh,
it's one that I've always meant to see, but it was one of those I didn't see it, and then it became kind of hard to find, and it just kind of slipped through the cracks. But I've seen lots of cool stills, and I've heard good things about it, and I like the director quite a bit. So we are going to be looking at 1984's The Company of Wolves.
Oh, I love The Company of Wolves.
Good. Well,
I mean,
yeah. And if you're a fan of Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was like, I love it, but it's not for everybody. Yeah. But I think you'll enjoy it anyway.
I think I will.
All right.
I'll find out. So, yeah. It's always
you know what? I haven't seen that either.
Excellent.
Another one I've been meaning to watch.
It's slower.
Never. I think I started watching it once and I wasn't in the right mood. You know,
yeah, it's slower.
So.
I mean, I know it's not American Werewolf in London. I know it's not.
No.
You know, so that's all right. That's okay.
But you like cats and stuff like that, and I think you'll find it. I think it's totally worth a watch.
Okay.
It's a quality movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. It's another one of those well-produced movies.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. There's plenty of ways to stay in touch. Please leave feedback on the Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel, and also subscribe. We do have some goals. We're very modest about it. We're shooting for 5,000 subscribers, and you're the only ones that can make that happen. So we'd appreciate it. You can also send feedback to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com or leave comments on Gruesome Magazine's HNR and DOH podcast Facebook group. There's also a Gruesome Magazine website. Anyway, just all kinds of ways to stay in touch. So please do so. Catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror movie, as only decades of horror can do it. Say good night.
Good night.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Gruesome Magazine.